Worldwide movement, peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. All right. Man, it is beautiful indeed out here. Maybe I'm even understating that. All right. Thank you all once again for checking me out. Truly appreciate you always being with me. You know I always love you. And yeah, man, I hope everybody's enjoying this day as much as I am. I'm not even gonna say it this time. You know that famous thing about the duration of the video. We'll see how long this one is. We'll put it like that. But yeah, thank you all truly. I appreciate you. I love you all. And there is no worldwide movement, peace, love, respect without you. So thank you all truly. And with that said, let's help continuing to keep the channel growing, right? Please make sure that you like, share, subscribe. Right off the bat, please show me that love. Let's keep the channel growing and keep the message continuing out there and continuing to build the worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. All right. With that said, the title of this, by the way, is The Revolution Will Not Be Televised Still. All right? Still. So, what we do get a healthy dose of every single day, every moment that you turn on the TV and peer at it, which for me is you know, almost never in terms of like the news, the mainstream news networks and whatnot. You know, once in the blue moon, I'll check it out just to gauge the level of ridiculous, desperate, you know, attempts and measures to keep everyone in a fear state. But that's what we get, is continuous efforts to propagate fear, right? How often, I mean, this is, you know, not me making anything up. How often do you get good news in the news? Huh? Something that would make your vibrational frequency raise, which in fact is certainly not bad for you, right? And in fact, scientifically speaking, is very much good for you, right? No debate about that. But yeah, you see constant reminders of, or constant storylines that would put you in fear, right? Of what is happening health-wise in the world, what is said to be happening health-wise in the world, and the measures that are being taken in response to that, or vice versa. And everything that has been happening in the past few years here, in response to this pandemic. So we get plenty of that. You don't have to search far for that, and you know, certainly in my opinion, and those of many others who understand how propaganda works, how molding the minds of the masses works, know that none of that is an accident, right? And, you know, for anybody who does just a little bit of checking, the news is orchestrated. It's all pretty much controlled um, by 6 corporations. Um, that came out of the Bilderberg meeting, I think, back in the mid 50s, if I'm not mistaken, right around 1954, I think, somewhere around there. Um, Dates could be off just a bit. But yeah, and then now you have that um, orchestrating of the news, um, where basically they're all having the same talking points, right? That are controlled at a central source. So you have a very easy means of controlling what the narrative is at all times on whatever subject. So um, they very much, we know who they is. I'm referring to the socioeconomic elites who are in power over these mechanisms, right? They very much use them as tools to steer the minds of the masses. And, you know, you could say sadly, um, it works. um, Rather methodically and efficiently, it really works. And it is a mechanism that has been used for quite some time, um, and is proven in terms of its efficiency and effectiveness. That's why they do it. So, um, but it can be counteracted, you know, and doing things like the way I'm talking about it now, actually quite effectively counteracts it, because these are the sort of little um, acts of trickery, you might say, that once you know about it, the effectiveness goes away like that. You know, it's like, fool me once type of thing, you know. It's just that most people, unfortunately, are kept so busy in the rat race, which is purposefully orchestrated by the, in my opinion, right, by the socioeconomic elite, um, who control the narrative and actually control the agenda that the nations, right, in my opinion, all operate under, right? That support the paradigm that they wish to maintain, right, which is their paradigm of control. Um, you know, no one would say it doesn't make sense. We understand it. We're just not for it. You've essentially got 2 sides here. You've got the minority, the true minority of folks who are in power over the majority of the world, right? So those are the 2 sides. I'm on the side of the majority, right? Um, of the masses of folks who are just yearning to awaken to a new and better life and attaining their higher selves, and in fact having world peace, right? A new paradigm of peace, love, respect. um, but those who are in control of the mechanisms of media, um, use it very shrewdly, right? And as I said, they're always controlling that narrative very directly. It is from a central source, um, and doing so in order to keep their paradigm afloat, or so they hope, because it won't. uh, but while they're busy giving you all that negative, low vibrational frequency, um, you know, questionably useful news, even, right? Um, what they don't tell you about and haven't told you about are the millions of folks around the world who are awakening every day, right? Awakening every day, waking up to the truth of the old paradigm, right? See, again, because of the rat race that most of the world is in, truly struggling just for survival. Hey, worldwide movement, peace, love, respect. All right. Um, you know, most of the world literally kept in a survival state, right? Purposefully. Um, does not have an opportunity, have the energy to even develop the inclination, right? To delve into any of this stuff, or to even do enough free thinking to ponder or question anything, right? Too much. All we are kept in a state of is constant fears, and fear is not always like the the quite obvious forms of fear that we think. If someone points a gun at you, right in your face, you're fearful of getting shot in the face and killed, right? Something, I don't mean to be graphic, but that's the type of thing that might quickly come to mind, or fear of being eaten by a wild animal, or something violent happening to you, or being in some dangerous circumstance or situation. But there are a myriad of other fears that they use very shrewdly, like the fear of being alone, the fear of standing out in the crowd, the fear of being labeled weird. How popular has that phrase become over the past 10 years, right? Oh, you're weird as hell. Excuse my language, right? Uh, you know, when I remember, there was a time people thrived on being different, unique. Uh, Nobody wanted to be like the next person. You wanted to be your own person. We see that echoed in music, hip hop especially. I remember in the 80s, even the early 90s, you celebrated your individuality. The whack cats, the cats that was, you know, really no good, were the ones who were trying to sound like or be like somebody else. Now that has been flipped purposefully so that more of a follower mentality is propagated amongst the people, right? So they use fear to keep that going, a fear of looking different, of being strange, or into something that everybody else is not into, or more importantly, not being up on what everybody else is up on, right? Um, there's a lot of different forms of fear that are used to keep that sort of deficiency energetically within you. And with that energetic deficiency in place, you know, that leaves a hole in you, right? That's literally like a hole in your spirit, right? And people try to fill that all the time with what society throws at you to fill it with, which is material, right? There's always some material being sold to you to make you feel better about yourself. Think about how advertising works. Think about the average commercial these days, especially all the, fixes, right? Oh, you're a little overweight. Here's this diet pill. You know, you can't have that pudge around the middle of your gut there. Take this pill. Not eat healthy and exercise a sufficient amount, right? But take this pill. Problem, product, right? And they continue that. There's something. You know what? Nah, your your jawline isn't quite like. Oh yeah, look at the little turkey thing under there, ladies. You need surgery. You need surgery, huh? Nothing wrong with you, baby. But they'll convince you that something's wrong with you. Listen, there's a million things laced into our society, and much of it decimated to us through mass media that propagate all sorts of fears. And then they give you a material solution. Much of the ways they make you feel better about yourself is, here, go and buy this. And then they'll use language in the commercial like, you're a boss now, and all that. You know, they purposefully use this sort of language so that they teach you to use material to prop yourself back up after society tears you all the way down. Wow. Right? You know, you get to feeling bad about yourself, go to social media, and if you do the right things that everybody else does, because that's what's popular, maybe you'll be popular too, and you'll get that form of acceptance. Huh? Come on now, people, this is what's happening. This is what's happening in our society. Now, again, while they're busy feeding you all these different forms of fear to keep their agenda going and keep their paradigm in place by teaching you to use these material fixes, they're showing you a basic way that you live your life. Get torn by society, go out, work like a dog, be our slave to our corporate system. And you may think you're not, but whatever job you're in some way or another, it's benefiting the corporate structure in this nation. You don't believe me? Follow the money. Do the trail. Right? Do the trail. So they're teaching you, get torn down by society, right? Fill yourself back up with this material. The only way to get this material, slave in these jobs for us. And we'll give you just enough crumbs to feed yourself, maybe. To house yourself, maybe. Right? To get some clothes, maybe. And maybe even to get a nice shiny car. Maybe even to get some nicer clothes. Maybe even to get a few nice things to stick in that house. Maybe to get a nicer house. Oh, you did it. You're living the dream, the American dream. So now you're constantly sold into that process of pumping yourself back up to counteract all those fears that you've been fed intentionally in the first place. So, now as a corporate slave, your life is just consume, produce. Produce for the corporate world in your slavery, and then go and consume to make yourself feel better about all the different ways and all the different fears used by society and their mechanism of putting most of this out to you through mass media of all sorts, especially the news. Make yourself feel better. Go and get that home security system. Hey, you'll be safe. Think about how they manipulate you, folks. We're more intelligent than this. We just need to stop for a moment and just question some things, right? Truly. The average person is more intelligent than this. But we just need to stop for a moment, step back, and question these things. Now, again, while they're so busy feeding all this to you, they're not telling you about the millions of people who are starting to do that. It is happening. People are starting to do just what I said. They are questioning things like, wait a minute, something ain't right. Something is not right. Huh? And they're questioning the motives behind the way every institution in their lives, the way everything that affects their lives is being distributed or decimated to them or given to them as a paradigm in which they should live. And because they're questioning that action in itself is what is aiding us in forming this new paradigm. I talked many times about the microcosm affecting the macrocosm, and that is often what actually is the catalyst to spark change, right? It's never usually, not never, it's not usually the case that everyone just decides, this is messed up, let's change it by doing this. It's usually somebody who has a bright idea to say, wait a minute, couldn't this be better? Or is this exactly what we want, right? Or what if we did this, right? Asking questions, free thinking. It always starts with a few, and then, or almost always starts with a few and then cascades its way up to the macrocosm. And it's starting to happen. It has been happening for a little while now. And there's some examples and things to tell us that, right? But most of us are not aware of it because we just turn on channel whatever, we catch the mainstream news, whatever they tell us is up and happening is what we take it to be. That's the world. That's just, what do you mean? I know what's going on in the world. I just watched the news. Huh? Oh, you mean the one that's controlled by the same folks who, many of them with their money and power, are actually operating on the mentality of that you can see, that they display clearly for you to see right there in the Georgia Guidestones, right? And even talk about often in auditoriums filled with thousands of people, Mr. Gates, right? Clearly they talk about this depopulationist agenda that has the population that has us suffering a massive population decrease. They're talking about folks dying, huh? They want you gone off the planet so that they have a very small population they can easily subjugate and control. You want to get your narrative from those folks? Are you sure? Are you sure? Because they are indeed those who control those 6 corporations that put together that narrative to give to you every day, to keep you in that fear state, that you have to go and try and find some way to counteract and fill that hole in your spirit. Huh? They're not telling you that millions of people are questioning that and are beginning to change that old paradigm to a new paradigm. Peace, love, respect. That's what people want. People want to live a good life. It's actually natural. People just want to live a good life. Huh? So, some things that have happened, even recently, that they don't tell you about while they're busy feeding you the line of the day, right? They don't tell you that over in London, thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands, some people have even estimated over 1 million. I've seen one estimation that was over 1.5 million, right? But likely hundreds of thousands of people just by looking at the video, if you use the same means of calculating and gauging the size of a crowd as has been used in massive events like the March on Washington, right? The Million Man March, pardon me, I'm talking about. You know, you see that it's thousands, likely at least hundreds of thousands of folks. It may be over 1 million, right? People protesting the lockdown protocols and the vaccination protocols. This is not me saying anything anti-vaccination or pro-vaccination. This is me saying that people have protested this in London, right? And you can just Google this, so there's really no need to be alarmed. But let me just make sure I protect myself. Got to be careful these days. Um, that there are a lot of folks. Um, it looks like at least hundreds of thousands of folks protesting the lockdown protocols and the measures to go and have folks go and get the jab, right? But you don't hear anything about that when you turn on Channel 11 or Channel 4 or Channel 2 or whatever channel it is that you get your mainstream news on. Instead, you'll get an update designed to do what? Pump up your fear. So, the revolution, as they say, was never a physical thing, and we don't want that. We don't want violence. Violence is senseless. That's what we're moving away from. That's the paradigm that we're trying to leave behind, because those who've maintained control have loved violence to be our paradigm. Violence against each other, because it keeps us from doing what? Focusing on them. Right? Divide and conquer. The next best measure is distraction. Right? Okay. So, they do not want it to be known on a mass level that there are massive amounts of folks who are waking up, changing their mentality, having, whether you want to call it a spiritual awakening, um, an awakening of higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it, that's fine. The bottom line is people are changing. The world is changing because people are changing. And the paradigm that we have been trapped in, literally trapped in, for eons, is over. It's over. It's over. They just don't want you to know it. Because the more you know that, the more you cognize it, and the more rapidly that change is implemented in the world. That's the absolute truth. That's how manifestation works. That's how this world works. That's how quantum biology and quantum mechanics interface to show you that your biosphere impacts, implements, dictates to the quantum field and all in it. You dictate reality. If enough of us, and it doesn't have to be the majority, not even close, just a small minority, awaken to a high enough vibrational frequency, it will exponentially impact on a quantum level everyone else in the field. And they will begin to vibrate at a higher vibrational frequency anyway, as your DNA is begging to do. Your DNA is designed to flower. In the old paradigm, in the lower vibrational frequencies, it is held back. It is literally recoiled and held back. This is scientific fact. Your DNA in a low vibrational frequency setting recoils. In a high vibrational frequency setting, it unfolds and flowers beautifully as it was designed to. Science, check it out for yourself. And with those abilities, right? And I'm not talking about, for those who are wondering, running around with superpowers. If you ask me, this is far more profound. The ability to manifest reality itself. Thanos needed a glove to try and think about doing that. Let me stop. Hey, listen. We got to have a good time with all this, folks. Don't lose your sense of humor, because there's too much pain to be absorbed without that incredible tool of your sense of humor. Because That's what they feed you. I just told you that. So keep your sense of humor when they try to feed it to you. Do like this, right? Fade them off, and do that free thinking research and uncover things like what I just told you. Examples of how people are rising up all around the world and saying no. No, that was the old paradigm. And we're done with that. That was the old paradigm. And we're done with that. That's what millions of people all around the world, millions of people all around the world are doing that. Waking up and saying, no, no longer do I exist in that low vibrational frequency, in that old paradigm. I exist in a new paradigm, and me and my family, my loved ones, will live like that. Not how you're suggesting we live, in fear and pain and misery and hate and violence and anger and all those low vibrational frequencies that keep us divided and distracted, while the small few, those elites, rule over us, right? That's done with. We're going to have an end to the suppression of these technologies that quite frankly could have had us free decades upon decades ago. We could have been living with 0 point energy. We could have been living with several different forms of clean energy. We could have been living with so many technological advances that the elites enjoy freely, right? You know, their whole vision is like that movie Elysium, right? They might have been tipping tipping their hands, so to speak, or giving you a little nudge like, yeah, this is how we getting down for real. But another video. The bottom line is the TV, the idiot box, and the mainstream sources of news and mass media are all controlled by the socio-economic elite who want to keep the agenda and the narratives within that agenda steering you back into the old paradigm of low vibrational frequencies, you know, negativity, fear, pain, hate, envy, guilt, loneliness, you know, depression, all that stuff. That's what they want us mired in, and then distracted, you know, by whatever narratives they give us and feed to us. And while we're doing that, and while they have us in this pitiful state, they advertise every little fix that they want us to go out and buy so we can continue to consume, making them more and more powerful, right?